Hi guys, this is Brent with Fantasy Football Guide Live, coming to you. I just want to talk about fantasy football coming into week 4, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Trent Richardson's on an Indianapolis team. Surprise! Just kidding. Not surprise for you guys because you guys already know it all over the NFL news. It's so insane that Cleveland made that trade, but it's so good for Indianapolis. Indianapolis is going to take that and go crazy with it. I know that they're excited to have him. He's excited to be there. It's going to take a little while for him to get into the swing of things. Now he's going against Jacksonville. Last week I said that Marshawn Lynch is just going to run all over Jacksonville. Guess what? He didn't. He only ran for like 69 yards. And they're like, what's up with that? Well, the thing is, Jacksonville has the worst rush defense in the NFL. I said that last week. I also said that they have a really good pass defense. And then Russell Wilson goes and throws for 4 TDs and 1 pick, and that's it, and then like calls it a day. You know what's up with that, Brent? Well, here's the deal. The thing is that Jacksonville's defense is not only bad in the rush defense, but their offense all around is horrible. So they turn the ball over, and they kept on turning the ball over deep in their own respective area. Russell Wilson only threw for 202 yards, and then if you combine that with it's the 69 rushing yards for Marshawn Lynch, there wasn't that much offense that was put up with the amount of points that they scored. So they just gave up the ball deep in their own territory. They were able to capitalize on it. And then Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch both came out of the game in the third quarter. I think there was like 8 minutes left to go in the game. They pulled them, and they might have pulled some of their other starters, and then Tavares Jackson came in and took over. And then all the Marshawn Lynch owners just cried, basically. Well, I don't necessarily know that that's going to happen this week because Indianapolis doesn't quite have the defense that Seattle does for obvious reasons. But I would look for Trent Richardson to get a little bit better role this week. He didn't play that many snaps last week, but there was a reason for that. He's still learning the playbook. Transferring to a new team with such short notice, he had no idea that was going to happen. It just did. And he only had like 4 or 5 days to actually prepare. So don't. I mean, plus they're playing against a good defense. He still got into the end zone, which is really, really good. I think that's showing that he's going to have. There's going to be good things for this young man to come in the future with him in Indianapolis, especially with him only being in the second season. So not even just this season, but seasons to go. I would expect him to finish in the top 5. For sure top 10 this year, but like top 5 in the next couple years as far as running backs go. Moving on to RG3. Now he's playing against Oakland, and he's been having some issues. He didn't throw for any touchdowns last week, but he threw for over 300 yards. It's pretty good. Oakland isn't the worst team in the NFL. They're probably like mediocre. I looked at their defensive stats. They're right around the 14, 15, 16 mark as far as like yards given up for rushing and passing. But Washington really needs a spark here. Shanahan is under fire. We're talking about. I think I had heard rumors about RG3 being benched. That's laughable. Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback, but he's their guy. RG3 is their guy. He's gonna stay in there. He's gonna keep on throwing. He's gonna run a little bit. Look for him to get back on track this week against the Oakland Raiders. Moving on to so this is a game that I really want to highlight on is Pittsburgh Steelers and Minnesota Vikings. I am just completely appalled by how Minnesota's been playing. I was so lost for words watching that game. It was disgraceful. It was disgusting. I was so mad about it. Ben Roethlisberger, he is going to come in and probably just destroy the Minnesota Vikings. Here's why. Not because of what you just have seen in the past, a couple games with the Vikings, but 3 of their starting defensive backs are going to be out. Well, 3 of them, I don't know. Actually, A.J. Jefferson is going to be out, or potentially. I guess they're listed as questionable. but he was not a starter. But does come in nickel formations. Chris Cook though is their best cornerback, and then you have Jamarcus Stafford, who is their strong safety, and he might be potentially out there. All this is questionable. Kevin Williams listed as questionable. So basically, they're going to be relying on Xavier Rhodes, who has actually played fairly well, to step up and be a number one guy, even though he's listed on back on the depth chart below Josh Robinson, who I don't think has been playing very well. And obviously, you have Harrison Smith, who is an awesome free safety. But Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown are probably going to tear it up again. Antonio Brown just had a ridiculously good game last week. And I would look for him to keep on going with that. And I think that they're just going to do really well. Touching on Le'Veon Bell, this is going to be his first week that he's going to be starting after having his injury. I would probably not play him this week unless you're in a desperate situation where you need to play him and put him in as like a flex or something, because he has potential to do well, especially against this defense. But they want to ease him back into it. I don't know how many snaps he's actually going to get, so the amount of time and the potential for him to have a breakout, play or something is probably pretty limited. But it could be thrown off. He's going to be their starting running back, but they're still going to nurse him back in and probably turn it into a committee between the other backs that are there. So I don't know if I put a bunch of stock into wanting to start him this week, but if you need to, it's not a bad option. And then Adrian Peterson, he's going to turn it on. He has had some pretty rough games this season. He's put up fantasy points as far as touchdowns and stuff, which is nice, but his yardage has been way down. But look for him to get that back up. Here's why. Zach Line, gone for the season. So sad. He was their fullback. Rookie coming in. I really liked what the kid had going on, but undisclosed injury. He's gone for the season. But guess who's back? Jerome Felton, Pro Bowl linebacker. Fullback linebacker. He is amazing. He's going to be able to clear that pathway. He's going to be that bulldozer for Adrian Peterson that makes him so successful in this NFL. Having a nice fullback really does do well for some of the great running backs. Because you take a great talent and then you put a great blocker in front of that talent, and it turns into an explosion run, all over the field. So look for Adrian Peterson to have a big game. Plus, it's the Thursday Night Magic. I don't know what it is about Thursday night games. If it's the prime, or no, it's not Thursday night, is it? No. I'm sorry. Forget what I just said there. They're playing noon on Sunday. Never mind. The Thursday Night Magic game is going to be St. Louis with San Francisco. That's what it is. Which is why, here's my note, Colin Kaepernick, that's who's going to have a big game. I'm predicting he's going to have 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards passing, and he's going to have probably around 45 to 50 yards rushing. He needs to get it back on track. He's been struggling immensely and going against this division rival. They have to get a win here. They're 1-2. They're not expected to be doing this poorly. Granted, they played some tough teams. So it can be looked at as understandable, but not really, especially considering that they were in the Super Bowl last year. They're expected to go back there again this year. This at least is from the owner standpoint and the coach's standpoint. So I think that he's going to come back and put up some big numbers against the St. Louis, even though it is in St. Louis Stadium. And then looking at this, we got the Denver and Philadelphia matchup. This is going to be a great one. So you have Denver, who has the number 1 rush defense in the NFL, and they have just great defense all around, but the number 1 rush defense going against Philadelphia, who has the number 1 rushing offense. Since Chip Kelly took over in Philadelphia, he made a point to have a lot of quick dink and dunk type passes, which is why DeSean Jackson has been getting more play. But it also, he has taken away, with the exception of one game where LeSean McCoy didn't catch any passes, or maybe caught one pass. Otherwise, he would run the ball 25 to 30 times, which is insane. We had a scare last week with his leg. They thought that potentially had a pretty serious injury, but it turned out to be just fine. This guy, LaShawn McCoy, is going to be going against this tough defense. I wouldn't be skeptical about starting him. He's going to do well. I think Chip Kelly is a great coach, and that they can exploit weaknesses in defenses, even if they don't have many weaknesses at all. Which this Denver doesn't have many weaknesses. Denver defense doesn't have many weaknesses at all, but they're still going to go down and put points up on the board. But then Denver's just going to fire it right back and put up more. I think Denver's going to win this game pretty handily, but you don't have to worry about your studs on either team doing poorly. It's just a matter in the Denver scheme of things, who's not going to get the touchdown this week? Because like you have, that great tight end. Can't remember his name, but you have Eric Decker, you have Demaryius Thomas, and you got Wes Welker. Wes Welker has been money every single game. He's been made into the end zone, which is phenomenal. Julius Thomas is their tight end, who has been great this season. Just a matter. I just don't see, Peyton Manning being able to throw to all four of them for touchdowns. So, but you have good chances, good odds for any one of them, and potentially 2 to 3 of them to get touchdowns this week. Moving on to, let's see here, CJ Spiller. He's been very much a disappointment this year. They're going against Baltimore. I just want to double check so that I don't start talking about the wrong game, because I have done that before. Yeah. So they're playing Baltimore. They're playing at home, which is a plus. I'm a firm believer in people playing better when they're at home. Whether they win or lose, at least from a fantasy standpoint, players just seem to do much, much better. CJ Spiller hasn't done that well. Fred Jackson has been taking over carries in the passing and in the rushing game. But with the explosiveness that he has, that he brings to the table, he can't be mislooked. Buffalo wants to try and get back on track. They know that they're in a division where it's tough and there's high expectations. And I really think that he's going to get back on track, even though it's against Baltimore. And Baltimore has a decent defense. I actually thought their defense was going to do a lot worse than what it has this season to this point, just because they lost so many of their starters. But it turns out that doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, because they're putting up some good statistics. But CJ Spiller is due for a breakout game. I just think that it can happen against this Baltimore defense. Going on to the Dallas and San Diego game. This is an interesting one because I think, yes, Philip Rivers has 8 touchdowns, 1 pick, and Tony Romo has 6 touchdowns and 1 pick this year. So they're going against 2 outstanding passing offenses to this day. I was never a big fan of Philip Rivers, I'm not going to lie. I thought he was absolutely horrible. I didn't even know that this was possible for him to have this happen. But the kicker is that San Diego has the worst pass defense in the league right now, and Dallas is in the bottom third of the league as far as pass defense. I think this is just going to be a complete pass happy. There might be some picks going around, but I wouldn't be surprised if both quarterbacks throw 3 touchdowns and throw for anywhere between 250 and 350 yards, give or take, somewhere around in there. I think that's easily doable for both quarterbacks. And it's in San Diego, which is going to make it a little bit tougher for Dallas. But I know they've been relying also on DeMarco Murray a lot. San Diego has a little bit better run defense. I just think this is going to be a pass-happy game. Look for Miles Austin to have a big game. Des Bryant's going to have a great game. I'm not so sold on Eddie Royal. I know that he had 5 touchdowns in the first 2 games and then did nothing in the third week. but he played all those years in Denver, and people bought up on the hype, and they had decent quarterback, um, but we'll see what happens. I don't know if he's going to be the main guy there. It might just be the Antonio Gates show until he gets injured, but we'll see. They do need a wide receiver to throw to, and he seems to have stepped up his game in that sense. Um, and now moving on to my final segment of this cast. The As you guys, some of the people that have watched this video may have known, I have a Pikachu pillow in the background, and apparently people like talking about that more than they do about my actual show. Of me, uh, posting on fantasy about fantasy football, which I guess is fine. It's humorous at the very least. So people have been saying that I should make some kind of interaction with Pikachu there to get him into the show as well. So I was talking with Pikachu earlier, and we're gonna have the Pikachu pick of the week. Sounds good. So Pikachu's pick of the week is gonna be Giovanni Bernard. Totally sold on this guy. Likes the hype train. He's got that lightning bolt speed. Can burst into the end zone. So we're gonna have Giovanni Bernard, tearing up against Cleveland. I think that he is all that and some more. Even though he's splitting carries with Benjarvis Green Ellis, the law firm, I think that actually helps him out, because then it means that he's going to have less chance of getting hurt because he's not going to get all the carries. And I think he still has more potential to do well as far as being the elusive type back versus the just straight up run down the field power back. I've always been more of a fan of the pass catching, the really quick, the people that can juke and move, even though they're more usually prone to getting injured. At least they're not running up the middle, and then the little guys are getting pounded. We don't want that. So look for him to have another great game coming into here, and I guess that'll do it for me today. So this is Brent, Fantasy Football Live, or Fantasy Football Guy Live, signing out, and Pika Pika.